the premeditated murder charge is out, but you were saying the other murder charges are also not holding either.
And I think, as Tanya was going to explain, they actually read the verdict there. It's very different from our system. No jury. It's a judge and two assessors. And she, before she officially delivers the verdict, reads through their reasoning. Okay. And so what this judge, Masipa, has been doing is she has been laying out the facts and interweaving the law of their reasoning leading up to the verdict. So she has not yet said that Oscar Pistorius is not guilty of murder, but we know that's where it's going because she has said, we find, myself and my two assessors find, that there was no premeditation. The prosecution could not prove premeditation. There's only circumstantial evidence and not enough of it.
So from
she threw out the ear witnesses. She threw out a lot of the prosecution evidence that would support premeditation, and she took it off the table, murder one. Then she went through murder two and did essentially the same thing. So we're left at the lunch break with only the culpable homicide, the third of the most serious charges. And although she's not delivered the formal verdict, it's very clear that that's where it's going.
Okay, can you explain culpable homicide and what the outcome of that might be if he's found guilty of that?
Well, that's the defense's best. That was their best hope before they went into this. But essentially, I would think at the lunch break, they're very pleased. That's the, I was terrified, I was disoriented, I fired by accident. And I thought it was a rather confused defense because it was kind of self-defense, kind of I fired by accident, and I thought it was rather inconsistent, but it seems as of this lunch break that it may have worked. Now, of course, she could still acquit him altogether. That's an option, too. But if she finds him guilty of the culpable homicide, that means that he could do 5 years, which is generally the sentence, or as many as 15 years. It's a much more flexible standard. And by the way, sentencing happens at another time. They get to come back to court with expert reports on both sides of the case, and the sentencing occurs months from now. The interesting thing about it, though, despite findings that seem to be in favor of Pistorius, Stephanie, she said she thought he was the worst witness, just about the worst witness she's ever seen. So this was not. She thought he didn't seem truthful. Of course, we remember how upset he was on the witness stand. This is not based on his testimony.
So what is the one thing that made it clear to her that he was not culpable of intentional murder?
Well, it wasn't about the defense's case being so strong. It seems so far that it was about the prosecution's case being so weak. They just did not have the proof. And the prosecution, thus far, she said, had the burden of proof, and they didn't have the facts to make the case for murder.
Okay, we'll see what happens after the lunch break. A lot of developments on that front. Jami Floyd, Al Jazeera America's legal contributor. Thank you so much, Jami.